Hello, everyone. You're welcome. This is another episode of the wonderful initiative of the Royal Statistical Society Nigeria Liquor Group. And it is my distinct pleasure to welcome a distinguished scholar today in person of Professor Olaneye Matthew Olaiwola. He is from the Department of Statistics, Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta. Professor Olaneye Matthew Olaiwola is a renowned expert in the field of statistics, and his wealth of experience and contributions span across academia and real-world applications. Today, he will be presenting a critical and a timely topic: brain drain, a looming threat to national development. His presentation will delve into the pressing challenges posed by this phenomenon of brain drain and how it impacts the growth and sustainability of nations, particularly in the developing countries. This insightful lecture falls under our overarching theme of effective use of statistics in making informed decisions. And this is a subject that highlights the essential roles of statistical analysis in guiding sound policy and strategy for national development. Welcome with me, Professor Olaiwola.
Hello everyone, I'm Professor Olaneye Matthew Olaiwola from the Department of Statistics, College of Physical Sciences, Federal University of Agriculture, Abeokuta, Nigeria. This presentation is my contribution to the initiative of the Royal Society Nigeria Local Group titled Efficient Use of Statistics in Making Informed Decisions. The title of my presentation is Brain Drain, a looming threat to national development. When you talk of brain drain, it simply means emigration or migration of highly skilled and educated individuals, such as scientists, engineers, doctors, and other professionals, from one country to another, often in search of better career opportunities, higher salaries, and improved living standard. These are some causes of brain drain: low salaries and benefits, limited job opportunities, poor working conditions, lack of research fundings, and economic instability. Now, I want to develop a model for the number of skilled individuals in the population. So I'm using small t to represent the time measured in year, and my p of t is representing the number of skilled individuals in a given population at time t. So, which means the number of skilled individual in a population at time t is a function of time. So, the goal is to predict how many skilled individuals we are going to have at a particular time in a given population. So, the number of skilled individuals in a given population between time t and time t plus 1 is proportional to the size of skilled individual we are having at time t. So there exists a constant g greater than 0, so that the number of skilled individual between time t and time t plus 1 is the product of that constant and the number of skilled individual in a given population at time t. So also the number of deaths of skilled individual between time t and time t plus 1 is also proportional to the size of the skilled individual in a given population at time t. So there is a constant d also greater than 0, so that the number of deaths of skilled individual between time t and time t plus 1 is the product of that constant and the number of skilled individual in a given population at time t. So if you now put the two assumptions together, we can say that the number of skilled individuals we are going to have in a given population at time t plus 1 will be equal to the number of skilled individuals we are having in the population at time t plus the number of graduates from the university between that time and the following year, minus the number of skilled individuals that died between that year and the following year. in a given population. So by using the knowledge of algebra, we can factorize by bringing out Si of t, that is the number of skilled individual in the population at time t. And you now have 1 plus g minus z. So this 1 plus z minus z, if you call it k, and that one you call the growth rate constant for number of skilled individual in the population, and that gives us equation 4. So if our g is greater than d, it means our k, of course, is greater than 1. So let's see if you are able to know. Let's say we have time 0 be the beginning, and we know how many skilled individuals we are having in the population at that time. Then if t is 1, that is the following year, we can determine how many are we going to have at that time, and that is the equation 5. So which means if our t is equal to 1, then the number of skilled individuals at time t equal to 1 will be equal to that constant multiplied by the number of skilled individuals in the population before that time, that is Si of naught, that equation 5. So if time is 2, the number of skilled individuals at time equal to 2 will be equal to k multiplied by the number of skilled individuals in the population at time t equal to 1. And we have determined the number of skilled individuals at time t equal to 1 in equation 5. So we substitute there, then you have that our equation 6. So when time is 3, we have equation 7 in a similar way. So when it's 2, we have k squared Si naught. When it's 3, we have a k raised to 3 Si naught. So when it is n, it will be equal to, that is equation 9, that will be equal to k raised to n. Then the number of skilled individuals in the population at time t equal to 0. And if you look at this, it's an exponential function. So therefore, it's an exponential growth for skilled individuals population model. That is equation 9. So if you look at the equation 9, we see that we have k and the number of skilled individuals at time t equal to 0, and that one is constant. So it means the k can vary depending on the value of g and the value of d. So if k is a little bit above 1, the graph, no, the population grow exponentially. So which means it's very sensitive. So anytime it's greater than 1, it grows exponentially. So for the second graph 2, when k is equal to 1.0053, then also when k equal to 1.5, 1.005, whatever the value of k, is grow exponentially, which means the rate at which the skilled individual, the graph being produced within the country, is growing exponentially. Now, in a system, we want to predict that, okay, what will be the number of skilled individuals that we're going to have in a given country at a particular time. So what you need to do is plot the graph of number of skilled individuals we're having this year against, next year against this year. And when we have our graph, we can trace. The blue line here shows that our k equal to 1 in the model we are having here. Our k is equal to 1. Instead where our k is equal to 1, we have this one. It means if the number of skilled individuals in population is equal to 10 this year, so next year also is equal to be 10, so it remains constant. The only situation we can have that is if the number of graduates you are having every year that need to be added to the population is equal to the number of deaths of the graduates, then that will give us 0. So nothing will be added, it will remain constant. So, but we have the growth rate. In this case, in the second line, which is a red color, the growth rate is 2. That is why it is higher. So, in this situation, I want to explain that model. When does a brain drain? So, in the first equation, in equation 10, here we assume k is equal to 1, and there's no brain drain. So, in equation 2, the growth rate is k, and there's no brain drain. But in the third one, the growth rate is k, but that's brain drain. And when I have a brain drain, that's in equation 12. It implies that the number of skilled individuals in the population will be reducing. So we need to remove how many of them moving out of the country from what you are having. And that's why you have in equation 12. Graphically, in figure 6, when there's no brain drain, and our K is equal to 1, we have blue line. Then when our K is equal to 2, that is the population is growing double, we have the red line. In this situation, the minimum we are having is where the line blue and red intersect at 0, which implies that you can't have anything below that. In the situation where there's no brain drain, all the skilled individuals in the country, they are still within the country. None of them is migrating. So we have skilled individuals within the country in that situation. If you look at the second graph, that is a figure 7 with brain drain. So in these situations, as we are having skilled individuals because of no job, no bad salary, bad low standard, no quality of life, and some other things, people are moving out of the country. So for intersection of line blue and line red, that is at the point where the number of death of graduates is the same thing as number of the graduate being produced in that year, which means that the population next year of the skilled individual last year will still be the same thing this year. Immediately below that point, there's intersection at 0. So at that 0, when the red line gets to 0 on the horizontal axis, that means at that point that there's no more skilled individual in the population. And that is why the problem will not set in. It means in terms of technology, in terms of health, many other sector, education, we will not have qualified hands in the system again. So in that kind of country, there'll be a lot of problem. There'll be outbreak of diseases because qualified doctors have no more. And we have great graduates because qualified hands, there are no more in the university system. Then in other sectors also, we do not have expertise. All the scientists, they are no more in the country. So the country now have a lot of problems, outbreak of diseases, high inflations, low productivities in so many sectors. There will be riot, there will be chaos, there will be disasters, and a lot of problems will set in that kind of country. Now, immediately after 0, we are having negative side. It's not possible to have a negative population. So we concluded based on that means extinction of the skill individual. So at the point where is equal to 0 here, it means there is no skill individual again in the population. And at that point, the problem will now set in. But it is still possible if there is a certain sector in the population that is they are paying them fat salary. That kind of sector may be very few. But what will happen at the end of the day? So the equation 13 is representing that one. In that situation, we are taking C to be a carrying capacity. That at that level, if the number of skilled individuals employed in that sector is up to C, all the available resources in that sector will be consumed. And that implies that individual will be richer than that company. And the companies will not be able to function again. And immediately you are having such situations, all those skilled individuals, despite the fact that richer already, and even richer than the country of the company, they will move out of the country. So we now have the graph we are having in figure 8. From the assumption number 1, initially, when they reserve that company or those sector, maybe for a certain set of people, they employ there, it will grow exponentially. When you get to a peak, C, at that level, the resources from that sectors might have been consumed by these people. Might have been consumed so that the company will not be able to cope again. Individual may be richer than the company. And they move out of those sectors and immediately the population of them will come back to 0. That as option number 2 will come down to 0 because the company cannot function again and they cannot keep in that company again. They have to move out. So therefore, the remaining in the system will also migrate. So at that point, there's no more skilled individual in the country, and where we have a lot of problems. In the hospital, you cannot get qualified doctors. In the university system, you can't have qualified teachers. In finance sectors, people that qualify will not be there again, and the company will not be able to cope. There will be high inflations, there will be disaster, outbreak of diseases, and so many other things. So the effect you can have in the population is that, or in the country is that, there will be reduced innovation and competitiveness. There will be loss of expertise and knowledge. There will decrease economic growth and a shortage of skilled workers, increase dependency on foreign expertise, negative impact on health, education, and research. In conclusion, brain drain poses significant economic and social challenges. To address this, government and organizations must create environments that retain talent, offer career growth opportunities, and incentive skills individuals to contribute to their home countries, thereby stemming the tides of talent migration. Thank you.
We really want to appreciate Professor Olaniyi Matthew Olaiwola for this insightful presentation on brain drift, a looming threat to national development. He thoroughly analyzed the issue and highlighted its complexities and the significant impact it has on our nation's progress. His ability to articulate the challenges and potential solutions was particularly enlightening. Thank you for shedding light on this critical topic and for inspiring us to think more deeply about the implication of brain drain on our society. We still request for more contributions on the theme effective use of statistics in making informed decisions as part of our initiative of the Royal Statistical Society Nigeria local group. You could kindly reach us on this WhatsApp number +44 777 874 5483. Thank you for listening and stay tuned for the next episode.